Morning, everyone. Charles Moskowitz here. My guest is Sandra Lee, and she is an author, writer of songs, columns, books, music. She's quite prolific in that way, which is why I'm particularly interested in speaking with her today. And the book in question is Dear Donald, Letters from a Loving Deplorable. Thanks for joining me, Sandra.
You're welcome. I've got my book right here. Do you
Hold
know
it
I
up.
have to read it again? It's about the fourth or fifth time I've read it because I forget what I said. you know,
No, I know.
I'm almost done with book two, which is Dear Donald, 4 more years. I know I'm a little presumptuous, but I think he's going to win.
You know, what's one of the things that interests me in your analysis here is that you say that you are the demographic that would vote for Trump. And while I agree with that on paper, that being suburban women, that's not conventional wisdom. Conventional wisdom is that that's his antithesis in terms
No,
of support.
I'm speaking to suburban women, actually,
Mm-hmm.
because I know they're having a hard time with his demeanor. And I understand that. But, my father came from Lebanon when he was 18, and he started from the ground up, and he became a rich man in this country, as did Donald Trump's father. So I relate to that experience. And when you have started with nothing, and I'm telling you nothing, my father could not read English. He could not speak English. He thought if I could just learn the language, that would help. He started with nothing. And in this country, you can do that.
I mean,
As that history. And
I think that what you're touching on there is why a lot of people relate to Trump, and why I relate to Trump in a way as someone who's been in business, who has failed at businesses, who have succeeded sometimes in businesses, in that he is a businessman and he thinks like a businessman. It can be troublesome for him sometimes because he doesn't speak in the usual, politesse of the politician. Where they talk, there's a lot of double talk and a lot of sophistries and innuendo. Trump speaks plainly, and there's an honesty about him.
Don't you love it? Don't you love it?
I personally do. Yeah,
I love it. And what I'm trying to give women permission to do, and many of them already have given themselves this permission. Relax. It's okay. He's not going to corrupt your children. You don't have to, oh, my children, oh, God, my children, what will my children think? What do you think your children are going to think? Kids today are very worldly. This man has lived a very full life. He's made a lot of mistakes. You can certainly make him wrong for his mistakes, or you can forgive him for his mistakes. We've all made a lot of mistakes. And it reminds me of that biblical story where, who's going to be the first one to throw a stone?
right.
If you feel you've never made a mistake, be my guest. But it's insane the way they're criticizing him for things he's outgrown and outgrown and outgrown. He's become a better man, a more spiritual man. And all that aside, what he has achieved politically is nothing short of miraculous.
Oh, it's phenomenal. I mean, he's been a hugely successful president. I mean, many people might have had their doubts when they first voted for him in the beginning. I mean, I certainly did, even though I did vote for him. But now, I mean, it's obvious after 3 years that he's been a phenomenal president.
He has proven himself.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely has. You know what I wanted to share with you? I'm so glad we have a half an hour.
Sure.
I was browsing through my own book. I've read my own book 4 times because I forget what I said.
Yeah.
I was trying to get a handle on what is my message to the suburban woman. And my message is be open-minded. Be willing to keep your eyes open, your ears open, and your heart open. And my example was in my book. I wrote a couple of pages called Dream Come True. Book is like Catcher in the Rye. Did you ever read Catcher in the Rye?
I did read that, yeah.
A little hysterical, 1 minute he's talking about this, 1 minute he's talking about that. He's talking about society, and then the next minute he's talking about kids on a playground. It's all over the place. Mine's a little bit like that.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to read a short segment to you about Kanye West going to the White House.
I remember that.
Kanye West was anti-Trump.
Sure.
And then he decided maybe not. And then he went to the White House to visit. And while so many of my subjects are serious, tragic, dangerous, contentious, and threatening, it is no wonder that I'm so delighted to laugh and smile watching Kanye West's visit to you, Donald, at the White House. It was adorable. I felt such joy at his enthusiasm and delight. He was candid and honest in sharing his feelings. He was hopeful and positive. He was happy and excited. He hugged you. For one brief moment, I felt there was hope for the world. He was bold and brave. He expressed his honest emotions. Kanye melted my heart, and yours too, I think. Donald, there was love in that room. It was palpable. One young female commentator later said she wanted to shoot the feelings in that room into her veins. You were for a moment embraced and appreciated by a powerful Black man for your support to the Black community. I love you, he said, and my eyes filled with tears. And you know what? That poor Kanye no sooner did that, and all kinds of Democrats got on his back and tried to change his mind, and they did.
Suddenly said that he was crazy. I mean,
yeah.
If it had been anyone else, they would have been called racist, which, of course, they were being racist.
But you know what?
In their attack on him.
He came back. He's a born-again Christian. He's preaching to thousands and thousands of people. This man has a changed heart. Donald has a changed heart. I have a changed heart. So I can relate to this. Yeah. I'm not the woman I was when I was 24 or 34 or 44. I'm not telling you how old I am. You don't get to.
Okay.
But I've changed, haven't you?
Of course. Yeah, and I think that Trump has changed a lot. And you can see that. I think that, in a way, one of the revealing comments that Trump made, it was when this whole business blew up about the private conversation that he had using vulgar terms that is a mantra now for his enemies. On the bus, I forget what they call that, the tape. And he said he was very embarrassed by this, and also that he has changed a lot since then. And one of the things that changed him was the process of running for president, and that he was able to get out there in the real world and meet thousands of people from all across the country in all various states and on the street and hear from them and listen to them. And that changed him. And I can relate to that because I ran for office and I had a similar experience going out and getting signatures. It changed me. And I was not, my mind came out of the clouds in a way, and it went down to the real street where people are and what people believe in and what they feel and what they're dealing with. And I think that is exactly what happened with Trump. He really became in touch with something outside of his usual, comfort zone. And, and yet the big ticket item, of course, for his enemies is to play the card that he's got something against women. He's got something against Black men and women. He's got something against Hispanics. He's got something against groups. And it's really, in a way, the same card that they played against any conservative or Republican. I mean, they tried to do this to Mitt Romney. They do it to anybody that doesn't goose step to the left. But in a way, with Trump, it's much more severe because he actually is conservative and he's actually doing things. He believes in what he says. He wants to make America great. He's not in it for any reason other than that. I mean, here's a man who has been...
They're so angry.
Yeah.
The left is hysterically angry because he's pulling the rug out from under them, and they're so corrupt. They're so corrupt, it shocked even him. The corruption is so deep-seated. It's so pervasive. People are in Congress too long. People are in government too long, and they start finding a million ways to get rich, and they get filthy rich. And they're not doing it honestly. It's become a very dirty game, and he's trying to clean it up. That he's not a saint. I'm not telling you he's a saint, even though he's changed a great deal, and I think he's trying to become a more Christian man. I'm trying to become a more Christian woman, but that doesn't make me a saint.
Right.
No, if you want
anybody, the opposite. As a good Christian, you are fault. You deal with problems and you deal with, issues that come up.
And they're always
We
throwing
don't claim to be
all the
utopian. I
time.
mean, whereas on the left, you have somebody, a slick operator like, I don't know, Obama or somebody. Every word that he says is fed to him. He moves well. He looks great. Everything is polished, and he speaks in that totalitarian language of indirection that they're all used to hearing. Whereas Trump comes out and he speaks plainly, and he is who he is, and sometimes it makes you cringe a bit, but it's what it is, and you know
Doesn't
what you're
make me
getting. It's a
cringe
known
anymore.
entity.
I don't cringe.
Well, I don't either, but I understand. I love his stuff. I
But
love his tweets.
I got used to it. And
Yeah.
I stopped making him wrong for it. And he makes me laugh. I mean, I watch these rallies and I go, what a breath of fresh air.
Oh, I know. That's
I
incredible.
was talking the other day about showers and the water and the water pressure, and it was so relatable. I mean, everybody was just laughing so hard because they've all had this experience with the light bulbs, the new light bulbs that are awful and everything is energy saving. Half the time they're not saving energy, they're making it worse instead of better.
Oh, I know. The old light bulb is actually much cleaner. There's
Yeah,
no question. And Trump
the
is the
whole
type of guy that's going to
environmental
come out and
issue
reveal that.
the whole environmental issue is very complicated.
And also, just as a little sidebar on the environmental issue, this country has reduced carbon emissions this past year. So if you believe in global warming, and I don't want to get into whether or not the science on that, but the fact is, what they're talking about is air pollution. This country has dropped air pollution, whereas other countries have increased it. So, people can sit there and pound their chest all they want. We have a very good environmental record under Trump.
And because I wrote this book, I did a lot of research. And when I tell you I've written 200, I'm writing 3 books. I've read 200 books in the last 3 years. And I've read on every subject you can imagine. I'm like obsessed. And there's a counterpoint to every issue. The whole thing about the environment, there's a whole argument that counters the popular argument out there. A lot of these people are pushing these agendas because they're making a fortune.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's what Trump pointed out, why he pulled out of that corrupt treaty, that global treaty, because all it was transferring billions of dollars to these shadowy groups that aren't going to do a damn thing to pull a single carbon out of the atmosphere. They're just putting the money in their pockets.
It's like Oxycontin. Here, it'll kill your pain. Oh, really? It's killed more people than 3 wars. So they're telling you, they're giving you something to kill your pain or make the world a better place or heal the planet. And it's all garbage. I don't trust all of that information anymore. There's too much money invested in it. And I'm willing to be a little more guarded about believing every single thing I hear.
And that's also one of the great contributions that Trump has made, in that he has called out the fake media, and he's shown how the media can mold a topic to fit their own narrative and their agenda. Something that conservatives have been talking about for ages. Now you finally have a president, and they start screaming about a threat to the media. Not at all. He's asking the media to be honest and to not. They do these cockamamie stories every other day. I mean, I get the Boston Globe sends me alerts. Oh, there's a big story, a bombshell. And they all say the same thing. And then 2 days later, everybody forgets it and they move to the next bombshell because it's like an indoctrination. It's almost like a mind control, and it's obnoxious and it's scary, and it makes me wonder how successful they're going to be. And I think that this impeachment thing that's going on right now, as you and I speak, I mean, I'd like to think this is their last desperate gasp, and they're getting so desperate that I don't know if you've heard the latest coming out of the impeachment hate crowd, and that is that it's the Russians who are controlling this. They're controlling Trump, and they're dictating the.
It's like yelling at the Russians for 3
years. Oh my God! I mean, we spent $30 million trying to prove that Donald Trump is a Russian spy. It is the weirdest conspiracy theory I've heard in my life, and I've covered a lot of conspiracy theories.
I'm trying to reach women. That's one of the demographics, the educated suburban woman. And one of the things that these women